The Brothers of Liberty, here to remind you what true freedom is. Hello, and welcome to the Brothers of Liberty. Always here to remind you what true freedom is. Once again, this is the older brother bringing you another video. In this video here, it's going to piss off a few people. People may call me a radical, but just to let you know, in this video, I'm not taking any sides. I'm just presenting facts. This video is in response to the latest topic of the Capitol riots, since a few days ago on September 18th, there was a protest for justice for the people that was involved in the Capitol riots that were detained. And once again, people were like, oh, that's the worst attack in American history, worst attack on the Capitol. But truly, was it? Or is the media blowing it out of proportion again and the leftists are just believing what the media says? Well, let's look at a little bit of history. Uh, and if you try to say it was the worst attack on America, you forget that we just celebrated the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So yeah, that's not even the case. And then you have Pearl Harbor. But if you're not talking about Pearl Harbor, since that wasn't a state yet and it wasn't the mainland, New York, the Pentagon, yeah, that's blow out of proportion there. Now, if you're talking about the worst attack on the Capitol building, well, let's look at some of the facts and incidences that has happened in our country's history on the Capitol grounds and the Capitol building itself. Granted, it was a lot of people that rushed in, and there's videos showing some people where look like Antifa members, and you do see some videos which is not spread on the mainstream media where Trump supporters is telling police they breached the Capitol, you need to do something. So I'm not saying one way or the other. You always do have extremists in groups that always want to ruin the fun for everybody else when they try to do a civil protest. But let's look at history and let's determine if it was truly the worst incident the Capitol has seen. We'll start off in the War of 1812. 1814 was the year that was a war going on between Britain and the United States, where British forces not only burned down the White House, but they also burned down the Capitol building. Now, granted, it was a war, so you expect things to happen like that in a war. However, all the other incidences did not happen during wartime. And let's give every example that I found, and you can research this too if you want, if you don't believe me. I actually got this off the National Geographic, which explain a lot of the details, and then I did further research into those just to verify the source. But in 1835, on the Capitol grounds, or the Capitol building grounds, there was an assassination attempt against President Andrew Jackson. Obviously, the guy had two pistols, fired one, missed, didn't get fired to discharge the second one because he was tackled. But that was the first incident. Not too bad. Now let's go to 1856, which actually involved two elected officials inside the Capitol building. South Carolina Representative Brooks beat Massachusetts Senator Sumner with his cane because Sumner made a speech, an anti-slavery speech. Beating is pretty bad, but and the sad part is Brooks was reelected. Now, with that being said, Brooks died before he could do his term. But yeah, that's pretty bad because that was two congressmen, but nowhere near the scale of what we saw on January 6th. Now it gets a little interesting. July 4th weekend of 1915, where former Harvard professor Eric Munter used 3 sticks of dynamite in the Senate reception room. Yes, he used explosives in a room. Nobody was injured. A lot of damages, though. And that was to protest President Wilson lending support to the Allies in World War I, even though America was officially neutral. So that was a bombing. I did not see any bombing on January 6th. 1954, four Puerto Rican nationalists attacked the House chamber. They were sitting up above the House chamber. They pulled out handguns and started shooting. 5 House representatives were injured in the attack. All of them were sentenced and put in jail. But fun fact, President Carter commuted their sentences in 1979. So yes, these people attacked because they wanted independence for Puerto Rico. They attacked representatives in the House, started shooting on the floor. 5 of them were injured. And what happens 20 to 25 years later? The President of the United States commuted their sentences for the attack. Let's go further. 1971, Weather Underground bombing. The bomb exploded on the Senate side in a bathroom. Yes, there was another bombing in the Capitol building. That's 2 bombings. 2 more than January 6th. Caused lots of damage and money. No one was injured. They did phone call the White House, say there was a bomb there. They evacuated, and that was that. Next one, 1983. Bomb goes off once again on the Senate side. The bomb exploded under a bench outside the Senate chamber. The armed resistance carried it out. 7 people were charged in the attack, including Susan Rosenberg. Now, what's the reason why I bring up her name is in 2001, right on his last day in office, President Clinton pardoned her for all crimes. And now she runs an organization which do fund BLM. Fun fact. Also about this bombing is the Senate was actually originally was supposed to be working late in the hours, but they called off early. It didn't go as long as they expected. They actually solved the issues a couple hours beforehand. Everything cleared off around 9 o'clock, and then the bomb went off at 10. Now, minutes before the bomb went off, someone called in saying there was a bomb. I think what they were hoping for is that the Senate room would be filled, and as they were evacuating, the bomb would explode and take out a lot of senators. This bomb also blew the doors open on Senator Robert Byrd's office. So yeah, this was, not only did it cause damage in the hall with a lot of money damages in the hallway, but congressmen offices too. And that was the worst, in my opinion, that was the worst incident in the Capitol. No one was injured, but a lot of people could have been injured if the meetings did not end early. Now in 1998, there was a guy, Russell Eugene Winston Jr. from Illinois, that killed 2 Capitol police officers, and he was mental. They arrested him. They took him alive. He was mental. He was trying to find something because of zombies. He's been in psychiatric hospitals ever since. Now, they determined from the National Commission on Terrorist Attacks that Flight 93 in 2001 was supposed to crash into the Capitol building. However, we know Flight 93 crashed in a Pennsylvania field because of the passengers who wrestled control from the terrorist. That did not happen. They said that was a target. We honestly don't know if it would be or not. And if it was a target, that would have been by far the worst in history. Because a plane in a Capitol building, you know what's going to happen. Now, in 2013, there was a woman that breached a checkpoint and was shot and killed. She was killed on the U.S. Capitol grounds. And she had a baby in the car with her. No, though, why she breached it. Like I say, she was shot and killed, so there's no explanation, only theories. In 2016, the last incident before the January 6th incident, there was a shooting at the U.S. Capitol Visitor Center. Larry Russell Dawson pointed a BB gun at police. He was shot and sentenced to prison. Fun fact, he was actually arrested before for disrupting Congress, shouting he was a prophet of God. So these are the incidents that happened at the Capitol building. For those who want to say this was the worst incident or the worst attack on the U.S. Capitol, I think bombings that could take people's lives are generally worse. Um, Two Capitol police officers that died in the shooting incident was still more casualties than the one person that died from an officer shooting her. So if you want to look at statistics and damages and money, then no, January 6th was not the worst attack. Granted, I'm not saying it, you know, that I believe in it. I'm not saying that, it was right or if it was wrong. But the one thing I love that the media point out, oh, look at the right wing attacking a federal building. But a lot of people remember the protesting, the BLM protests, where, yes, there was protest, but certain groups of people were rioting and causing looting and everything else. I'm not saying that was everybody, because there were peaceful protests and there was looting. But at the same time, you did not see any businesses destroyed. It was a federal building, and for those who say, "Oh, they're attacking the government," just remember there was a police station during the protest burned down, and in Portland where they did try to attack a federal building there too, where the National Guard had to protect that building. The difference was, for some reason, there was no protection for the Capitol building. So you can make up your own judgments. We are the Brothers of Liberty, where we always remind you what true liberty is. And part of that liberty is making your own judgments, whether you want to study and research history or believe everything you see on the news. A lot of times I get my news from the BBC because all American news are biased, either for Republicans or for Democrats. And the best way you know and get true knowledge is by getting an outside source where your judgment is not clouded based on your bias. And once again, this is the older brother Liberty and reminding you what true freedom is.